We're joined in the studio by Yukaro. Very good evening to you. The summer's finally here, with the Olympics just 3 weeks away. One would expect Paris to be teeming with tourists, but that is not the case.
Well, Mark, hotel occupancy rates at the moment are actually well below the usual level at this time of year. Rather than bring more visitors, the Olympics seem to be keeping a significant proportion of them away from the French capital. Caitlin Kelly looks at why.
What was set to be a record-breaking summer for tourism in Paris has left parts of the industry disappointed. For this hotel in Montmartre, business has been nothing like previous years.
Normally at this time of year, every room is occupied, but today the first floor is effectively all closed off because there's no demand.
The hotel is only half full compared to an 80% occupancy rate in previous summers. Even promotions are not alluring guests.
I think the effect of the Olympics has been counterproductive. Everything's very expensive. The traffic restrictions, the tripling of the metro fares and the tourist tax. These things, added to the bad weather, mean people aren't coming.
The story is similar across Paris. In June of last year, occupancy rates were at 90.3%. It's fallen to 78.8% the same month this year. This trend could increase as more neighbourhoods become inaccessible due to the Games. Some are dreading the next few weeks.
As preparation progresses, it becomes more complicated to reach places. You can see that with tour buses. Our clients are on such a strict schedule, the disruption can stop people coming to sites in the heart of Paris.
But the build-up to the Olympics is exciting for some visitors.
I didn't even know the Olympics was going to be in France. So it's just such a coincidence, like a crazy coincidence that the Olympics is here and then I get to see the preparations of it. Like I always see it on TV.
Hotel owners are counting on this enthusiasm in the months to come.
France, where's she been living? Anyway, inflation has come down a long way in the Eurozone area from its peak of more than 10% in 2022, but it's still above the central bank's target, is it not?
Headline inflation in the Eurozone has slowed slightly to 2.5% in June from 2.6% in May, according to the latest data. But core inflation, that excludes volatile food, energy and alcohol, remained unchanged at 2.9%, and services inflation stayed at 4.1%, well above target. These key indicators suggest that it may take time before the price acceleration comes down to the European Central Bank's target level of 2%. Last month, the ECB cut its benchmark interest rate for the first time since 2019, lowering it by a quarter point to 3.75%. Speaking at a forum in Portugal that's also attended by the US Federal Reserve's chair, the ECB president sounded caution.
We need to really unpack all that to get to the root causes of inflation behind services. So we'll continue to look at that. We need data. It applies to wages, it applies to profits, because we are seeing profit gradually declining compared to the height where they weren't at the end of 22. But we need to see those profits absorbing the wage cost increases.
So that was Christine Lagarde speaking there. I'm kind of left with the conclusion here that we should be talking markets, new economic data. Give us a sense of what's happening there.
Well, European markets reacted to the latest inflation data. They all declined as likelihood of another rate cut by the ECB in the near term diminished further. In London, the FTSE 100 fell more than 0.5% as investors were cautious ahead of Thursday's parliamentary elections in the country. In Germany, Siemens Energy's stock jumped almost 4% after it announced plans to invest 1.2 billion euros in its electricity grid business and hire more than 10,000 new staff. Wall Street is edging higher after a Labour Department survey showed US job openings rose in May, but the overall labour market conditions continued to ease. Nvidia's stock is down 1.33% after reports that antitrust regulators in France are set to charge the chipmaker over anti-competitive practices in the generative AI sector. The pullback in some of the mega-cap tech shares, though, is partially offset by a strong performance by Tesla after the electric car maker released a better-than-expected quarterly sales report.
Now, Bolivia's president thwarted an attempted coup d'etat last week, but is facing growing public distrust amid economic turmoil. Tell us more.
Well, Bolivia has been gripped by a deepening economic crisis amid skyrocketing inflation, high unemployment, and a shortage of the US dollar, on which the country has been overly relying on. President Luis Arce angered many by even denying the country is in economic turmoil, fueling public distrust in the government's assertions of a failed coup last week, while his political opponents claim it was staged. Eliza Herbert has more.
By a highway in La Paz, bus drivers queue for days to fill their tanks with diesel. Bolivia has seen a shortage of the fuel in recent months, alongside a shortage of the US dollar and an economic downturn that's weighing heavily on the people.
There is no life anymore. There are no jobs. The Bolivian people are suffering from hunger because there are no jobs and the money we earn is not enough for anything.
2 decades ago, the country was one of the fastest growing economies in the region, benefiting from a commodity boom, particularly as a prominent exporter of natural gas. But successive governments failed to properly manage its resources, which led to a decline in fuel production, pivoting the country to become a primarily import economy. It also became increasingly dependent on the US dollar, a fate that has drained its international reserves and contributed to mounting debt. Last week's failed coup attempt and ongoing political instability could exacerbate the situation. While President Luis Arce retained his power, he has sowed distrust among many by denying their economic woes.
Bolivia tiene una economía que crece.
Bolivia has an economy that's growing. An economy in crisis does not grow, first of all. Secondly, Bolivia has one of the lowest inflation rates in the region.
Bolivia also sits on the world's biggest store of lithium, a high-value metal which is key to the green transition. But so far, it has not been able to capitalise on it to generate significant wealth for the nation.
Eliza Herbert reporting there, and that's it for business.
Yuka Roy, thank you very much indeed. As always, Yuka there with all the business.